Hello, Disney nerds. Thanks for joining. Hello, Melissa. Hello, Victoria, Sophie, Anne, Nicholas. How is everybody doing today? Victoria from Londonderry. How is everybody doing today? This week's episode is brought to you by Kingdom Strollers. Kingdom Strollers is a Disney preferred stroller rental provider in the Orlando area. They have premium strollers at great prices. If you're going to head down there, instead of taking up room in the trunk or renting that big clunky thing from Disney, rent a stroller from Kingdom Strollers. They can deliver it directly to your resort hotel. You can pick it up at Bell Services, and then when you're done with it at the end of your trip, you just drop it back off at Bell Services, and Kingdom Strollers comes pick it up. So we're thankful to have them as a sponsor. We're thankful to have you guys here. We have a very, very special episode tonight. Hey, Maria. Hey, Vincent, Mike, Anthony from Philadelphia. Everybody, please share. We have a great show coming up for you tonight. I'm in Magic Kingdom, as you can see. Tonight, we're going to have Thomas Estrada. Thomas is a former feature animation artist with Disney. And I don't know if you guys remember, and I'll bring Thomas on just one second here. I don't know if you guys remember, but in the Animation Pavilion in Hollywood Studios, you used to be able to go in there and they would have Animation Academy classes where you could go sit in there and give you a paper and a pencil, and you would be able to go in there and an animator would teach you how to draw a character. So we're going to do that today. We're going to have Thomas show us. I hope all of you have brought your pencils and paper. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Kelly, Fred, Heather. I hope all of you guys have brought your pencils and papers with you. Lisa's here. She just commented, Victoria. But because we have a special guest that's going to be showing us how to draw, we didn't think it would work with both of us talking and Thomas and giving instruction. So please share with your friends. Have your pencils and paper ready. You guys are going to get to choose who we draw out of three people. I got three characters written down that me and Thomas talked about, and we're gonna let you guys pick who he shows you how to draw. And at the end of all this, we're gonna let all of you enter a drawing, and you'll be able to win. You may be able to win Thomas's the picture he's drawing. He's going to sign it and get it out to you guys. So without further ado, let me bring Thomas in.
Hey.
What's up, my friend?
How are you?
I am
doing well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us and doing this for us. We're very, very excited. I know I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. This is a lot of fun. I love doing this.
Well, so let's get a little history about you, Thomas, and kind of your history, just really quick, and what the type of things you're doing now as well.
So, my name's Thomas Estrada. I'm a character animator. I started in animation, just over 20 years ago now. Was actually with DreamWorks. I got hired into the animation industry on a film called The Prince of Egypt in '97. From there, I rolled on to The Road to El Dorado, which was another DreamWorks film. At that time, I was able to actually make it to Disney feature animation. I got hired on to a film called The Emperor's New Groove that I got to help out on. I stayed with Disney for a few years, rolling on to Atlantis, then to Treasure Planet, then a film called Home on the Range, which was one of the last hand-drawn films with Disney. At that point, I went back to DreamWorks, did their last hand-drawn film, was a movie called Sinbad, and then at that point, I retrained onto computer animation and got onto Shark Tale and Over the Hedge, and then a bunch of video games ranging from God of War and Gears of War and Uncharted, Spyro the Dragon, and eventually made my way back to Disney with Disney Interactive, working on games like Toy Story 3, eventually on to Infinity, which I worked with for about 6 years. Now, currently, I'm working for myself. I am a freelance artist and illustrator, and I'm doing work for different clients. One of them right now is the Foo Fighters rock band. I'm doing some promotional work for them, and as well as just custom commissions and murals and just a little bit of this and that, and a lot of Comic-Cons. My wife and I travel around the country doing Comic-Con shows and getting to meet great people and talk about a lot of these projects.
How can everybody find you, Thomas, if they want to commission you for a piece of art, or they want to see what you might have in stock, or buy something that you already have?
Yeah.
One of our friends, Morgan, just commented that she loves the Lilo and Stitch painting behind you.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a commission that I did, an acrylic on canvas. So, yeah, you can find me on Art of Thomas Estrada just about anywhere. If you look on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, I have an Etsy page, Etsy shop as well, called Art of Thomas Estrada, as well as a website called Art of Thomas Estrada. So any of those, you can find me and either contact me or see what stuff I have in inventory as well. So, yeah, that'd probably be the easiest way.
Okay. And guys, I saw Lisa. Hey, Ed, Sophie, Chelsea, Kelly. So, guys, Thomas is going to take us through this and teach us how to draw a character. We'll go.
Yeah.
We're going to vote in just a second. But if you're at a spot that you don't have pencil and paper, or maybe you want to go later and show one of the kids, this will be available on replay later, and we'll probably maybe even try and grab it and put it on our YouTube channel as well. So the three characters, and I'm going to have all of you vote, and we'll have the accounting firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe figure out who wins this, but which is Morgan and Lisa. So the first character up, I'm going to name three characters, and you just comment with the number. So it's either number 1, 2, or 3. The first one is Cusco, would be number 1. Thomas actually worked on that film. The second one, number 2, would be Stitch, and number 3, Goofy. So Cusco,
yes.
Stitch number 2, or Goofy number 3. And just comment in the comment section, and whoever wins this will be the character. We'll go ahead and get Thomas to draw for us and teach us how to draw. Stitch coming in hot with 2 right off the bat. You kind of predicted that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we got a 3. Oh, wait.
Well, we figured we'd go with a film I worked on with Cusco. We'd go with a very popular in Stitch, and then go in with a classic Disney with Goofy.
So number 1 for Cusco, number 2 for Stitch, or number 3 for Goofy. We'll give everybody a chance to comment here, and I'll have Morgan and Lisa kind of tally up the votes. Stitch came out hot, but it looks like Goofy may be taking this over.
Oh man, Goofy coming back.
So, give you guys a couple more minutes. Let me know if the music is too loud or not loud enough in the background.
Love the music.
Since I was on Main Street, I went ahead and played the Magic Kingdom entrance loop.
Nice. It looks like you have all of Main Street to yourself. That's pretty slick how you managed that.
I've got connections.
Man, they just cleared the whole thing out for you. That's impressive.
I told them you were going to be on.
Nice. And everyone just split. I think is what happened.
They said, look, if you have Thomas Estrada on, if you need the space, you can have it.
Okay. That's right. Great. That's usually the crowd that I attract right there at my Comic-Cons.
All right. Lisa, what's Lisa, Morgan, one of you guys, what's our final tally? All right. So Morgan's calling Goofy as the winner. Lisa,
Goofy. Nice. Goofy it is.
Information from Lisa. All right, Lisa's got Goofy as well. So Thomas, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop you down. I'm going to talk to my lovely audience just for a couple minutes about coffee. So it'll give you a couple minutes to get your camera turned around and get it set up.
Very good.
Ready to go. So I'll add you back in just a couple minutes.
Sounds good. Thanks. I'll be right.
All right. Hey guys, I wanted to show you something real quick while Thomas is getting set up and getting his camera set up. I just wanted to show you this cool package that I just got the other day. Extremely addicting contents, which I thought was so cool. And then on the other side, Expedition Roasters. So as you guys know, I've talked before, Expedition Roasters is one of our sponsors. So I went ahead and ordered one of the sample packs, which I would recommend you do, and go to expeditionroasters.com. Order one of the sample packs. Use DizNerd20 for 20% off your order. And let me just show you what came in it. So this is Expedition Roasters and Enchanted Tiki Coconut. It's a coconut flavored coffee. Expedition Roasters Ghoulish Delight, which is cinnamon bun. Expedition Roasters Bobsledder's Brew, which is fudge brownie. Expedition Roasters Skipper's Brew Jungle Banana Pie. Jungle Banana Pie. That sounds pretty good to me. And then Expedition Roasters Roundup Roast, which is s'mores. So Victoria, Expedition Roasters is one of our sponsors for the Disney Nerds podcast. So while Thomas was getting his stuff set up, I just wanted to share that with you and let you know that we have a discount code with Expedition Roasters as our sponsor. So DizNerd20, get 20% off your order at expeditionroasters.com. DizNerds20. All right. Oh, the bundle's the best way to go because you get to try like 5 different. It's not as big as the regular packs, but you get to try like 5 different ones. So, all right, guys, I'm going to bring Thomas back up. I will be able to I'll be reading your comments. I think the box was $25 before the discount, if I'm not mistaken, Kendra. I'll be reading your comments to Thomas while he's drawing. You won't be able to see me, but I'll be able to see you, and you'll be able to hear me and you'll be able to hear me and Thomas. So let's get started. I'm excited about this. All right, Thomas, we all ready?
Yes, we are. How's this looking?
This looks good to me. It's look good for everybody else. Everybody else is ready to draw Goofy. All
right. Very good. So, hopefully we can break this down and everyone can follow along. Whenever drawing characters in general, drawing anything in general, the way I was trained while working at Disney feature animation is basically trying to break stuff down into basic shapes. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this style before, but it's using what we call an underdrawing or foundational drawing. And what we want to do that for is so that we can tie everything together. We could have a good, strong foundation for our drawing to build upon. And so when we do underdrawings, the main thing that's important to do is to keep things nice and light, because oftentimes, always, the underdrawing, we're going to end up erasing a lot of times afterwards. And so we don't want to draw it super dark. We'll do that later when we start getting a lot of the detail in, but I'm going to draw the underdrawing a little bit darker here just so that everybody can see it. So looking at something like Goofy, the first thing we want to start off with is just this nice round circle. And when we're drawing circles, I'm not drawing just a nice perfect one line. I'm kind of moving my pencil around so that I can kind of push those lines around. I'm feeling that shape. It's almost like sculpting where I'm starting to get those shapes down together. And so we want to start with that circle because this is going to be the top part of his head. And then with that, we want this to be a three-dimensional shape. We don't want it to be just a flat circle. And so to do that, we could start adding like these crosshairs. So we have the vertical crosshair and the horizontal crosshair.
If you were doing this for yourself, this would hardly be visible on the page, right? You're making it darker.
Yes.
So they can see what you're doing, but it would be very, very light, right?
Yeah, the underdrawing you want to keep nice and light so that we can erase a lot of these lines when we're finished. But I'm doing a little bit darker just so everyone can see what I'm doing. And so we have these crosshairs, and this is going to be a nice place to build everything off of. So this is kind of going to be the center of his face, is right in between those two crosshairs. And so with that, we're able to we have the top part of his head, and then we want to build in the bottom part, which is another one of these, just this big oval shape. And it's coming off of this crosshair here. And so this is kind of, and right now it doesn't look like much, but we're building off this other shape here that's going to start to form the bottom part of his face. And so when we have these two shapes, we can start to, I want to build in his nose, but I don't want to just draw the whole thing. I want something that I can use as a guide. And so I start off with just a simple stick because I could start to bend it and I could see where the shape is going to come from. So just doing that simple center line, I'm able to then start to build everything from these basic shapes. So with this little stick here, I could start to see almost how far that nose is going to be coming out. So when I have that, go ahead.
You're drawing that's just a regular like number 2 pencil, or is it a special magic?
Yeah. This is just a regular HB pencil, which is the equivalent of like a number 2 pencil, which is kind of right in the middle. You could go, if you want to draw your underdrawing a little bit lighter, you can use a much harder pencil, like something with an H, like a 4H or a 2H, because the ones with the H's behind it is a harder lead. And when the lead is harder, that's going to create a much lighter line because the lead is so hard. You're not going to get a very dark line with that. And those are good. The nice light lines are nice to erase later because they're so light. If you get into anything that starts having a B, like a 2B or 4B, the lead starts getting much softer. And when it's softer, it's going to make a much darker line. And so those are good later when we want to start adding all of those details. We want the line to be darker.
Awesome.
So we have this little stick here, and this is what we're going to use as our guide to start filling in some mass around this nose. And so we're just following this same shape that we made. We can start to build up the mass that's going to go around it. And we want it to connect back over here into his face. So he's got this great big snout, and we can start to fill in those spaces there really nicely. And so remember, we did the crosshairs here, and those crosshairs come in really handy because it's a great place to start building in his eyes. And so with his eyes, I want them to rest on both sides of this center line, but I also want them to sit on this horizontal line. And by having this horizontal line here, it's a great place to make sure that the eyes are staying nice and level, so you're not having one floating way up higher than the other. So with the eyes, I want to do this oval shape, but I want this oval shape to be resting kind of behind it. So you see how it's going to get cut off right here? we're not going to see the whole one of this one because it's back behind this front eye. And so because we did our underdrawing nice and lightly, we can go back and erase some of those lines. So like here, I can erase some of this line to start cleaning this up. So now you could see I have one eye in the front and the other one in the back.
I can totally understand the crosshairs, because I think when I try and draw something, that's the thing that makes it look the worst, is when things are uneven or out of proportion.
Exactly.
It throws everything off after that.
And that's why, the underdrawing with the crosshairs, all of those things are used as a foundation to anchor down our drawing so that the eyes are not, one's not going crazy high than the other. Everything has a nice place where it all rests. It rests on the horizontal line. The center line is going to make it symmetrical, so it's a nice way of measuring where everything is going. So we have his eyes here. We have his nose coming out of his face. So something we can start to build up is we have this part here with his mouth. So this is going to be the top part of his mouth. It's going all the way back into his face. And because he's smiling, we're going to build up this cheekbone, or this nice mass here that goes around that smile. And that's this, when you smile, you can feel your cheekbones right there where they start to push up against your eyes. That's what this is here. And so we could even put a crease on the end of this mouth. So we have it coming up and it creases. So we get this nice mass right here. And again, we could start to clean up some of those lines that we had. And then even inside of here, we don't need this part anymore inside of the head. And so we can clean up some of this part here. We don't even need this center line for the part that we used for the nose. And that's why it's so important, again, that your underdrawing is nice and light, because we want to be able to get rid of this. If we did it really dark and then you try to erase it later, you know what happens? It starts leaving that little ghost line there, and then you keep erasing some more, and then pretty soon you have a hole in your paper because you've erased it so much.
I used to do that.
So we have the part of the nose. So what happens with Goofy, looking at his shape, it's not just a nice straight snout here. It almost folds into itself. And so we're going to do that by just adding these little creases. It's going to come down, and he has usually about 3 or 4 of these. So there's there. We can do another one. We can do another one until eventually this one is right underneath his eyes. So it's almost like a baguette that's got these little folds in it. Something like that.
Here in a little bit light.
Yeah, and they get a little bit smaller and smaller. And then in the front part of his nose is we want this part to crease in also underneath so that we can start getting like 2 distinct shapes. And this part here, you can almost imagine it as if there was a crosshair here. It would be the same thing. This is the center line. Well, this would be kind of the center line at the tip of his snout. And so we know that with that center line, we can build in this little shape here. So now we're getting like 2 distinct pieces. And we'll even add a little extra where it kind of sticks out a little bit. He's got all these great little folds in his face.
We have a question from the audience. Thomas, do you use standard erasers, or is it like specialty from the art store?
Well, the ones I like are these white polymer erasers are really nice. They seem to work well, and they stay fairly clean. But you could use anything you're comfortable with. I like these ones as well because there's not so much wear and tear on the paper. And so they're pretty gentle that way. Sometimes, there's some of those pink erasers, especially if they start to dry out or get a little hard, they could really start to tear up your paper quite a bit.
Still nothing.
So I like those ones.
Grab those at any art store or Michael's or Hobby.
Yeah, you can pick those up almost anywhere. Michael's. So then we got his nose, and his nose is basically just this big oval kind of egg shape that's just going to overlap and sit right on top. And again, I like to just kind of move my pencil around until I start to really feel that shape that I like. And as I start to see it, I can start to darken that line a little bit. But I kind of treat it almost again like I'm sculpting this line. I'm not just drawing one single line. You know, it's kind of a sketchy kind of style where you can move it around until you get it just the way you want it. So we have this part. We had drawn in the bottom half of his face, and so with this big piece here, we want to open this up from his smile. So it goes all the way back, and it's going to come down, and then it's going to swoop back up again, and that's going to create the bottom half of his jaw. And I'm following this same line from this part here. We want these nice curves. And then something we got to do is down here, again, we want to cut in a little bit so that we can give him a bottom lip. And then this part here continues on. Go ahead.
I like the fact that you said, when you said that, you know, you're kind of sculpting, because that made a lot of sense, that it's okay if that sketch part's a little broad, because you're gonna move it around a little bit and get it right where you want it. So there's
a lot of moving around that goes on, and you don't have to worry about just doing a perfect clean line right off the bat. That's what's great about with the pencils. We can come back and we can erase a lot and clean a lot of that up, and it's okay. Lines around, and it really keeps the drawing feeling very loose to be able to do that. And once we have it where we'd like it, then we can come back like here and start to clean up some of those shapes.
Yeah.
So we have his two eyes here, and then something we want to do is we're going to follow this same shape from the top of his eye that we had done. We did these nice ovals. We're going to follow that shape with the top of his head, with his top eyelid, and I'm just following the same curve that I did down below here, and I'm just putting another one. And again, the same thing. I want this one to be behind this front one, and that's going to give it some really nice perspective, and it's going to give it some depth. So now, instead of just a flat drawing, it feels like it's wrapping around, because we're putting these shapes behind these front shapes.
Got another question for you. Brad asked, you know, you're obviously really taking your time on this, and because you're showing us how to do it, how long would a sketch like this typically just take you just to do?
If I were just like flying through it, probably just a couple of minutes, I would imagine.
Okay.
It wouldn't, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to think, if I were just, because I've drawn Goofy quite a few times, and so obviously, if it, you know, because he's a classic character, and you know, he's someone that I've done quite a bit, and so this particular character probably wouldn't take me too long, maybe just a few minutes.
Well, I mean, I think even a lot of the ones you've done in the past, because when you're working as an animator and that's your job, that's your job. You're required to turn out quite a few of these a day.
Yes, that and I think that's a part of it as well. You know, when you know, I was working in feature animation, I mean, we had quotas. You know, you have to get stuff out, you know, pretty quickly, and so speed is definitely something that you learn. You know, to really develop, but having these underdrawing really makes it easy. You know, it really adds a lot of it's the blueprint of where everything's going to go.
Sure.
So we have the back of his head, which is just another big circle. Well, it's a little bit smaller circle, and then I'm going to blend that down into the main. We had this main sphere here, so I just drew another one, and then I'm kind of melting them both together to create this kind of oddly shaped head that he has. The eyes we want to rest down at the bottom, and again, we're just doing ovals. We're doing one there. The other one, it's the same thing. We want to have it hiding behind this one, When you're drawing, though, if I want to draw this oval, it's okay to draw through just so that I can make sure I get the shape correct that I want. So I'm going to draw right through with the idea that I can go back here now and erase some of that. Drawing through the image is a good way so that you're not always guessing. It'd be easier for me to just draw the oval like this and then clean it up afterwards.
Rather than trying to draw half an oval.
Exactly, because sometimes it starts getting a little funky when you're trying to guess where it might go and where, if this part down here is going to connect to this part correctly. So it's easier just to draw right through it and then erase it afterwards.
Makes
sense. With his teeth, he's got these two big teeth. One of them's kind of set back here, and this is just like a rectangle, and it's the same thing. I can draw right through just so that I can get a nice shape that I like. And it's up to you. You don't have to draw through, but I find that it's easy so I'm not guessing where lines are connecting or not connecting. And then I can clean it up afterwards. We want this one to be just crossing over that front lip a little bit. Something we want to watch out for, though, is where this bottom lip is coming up. When I bring this tooth here, I want this line to not be the same as this line from his lip. I don't want these two to be the same, because if I did this and this were his tooth, it creates a tangent, and a tangent is basically a weird where you're not sure what this line is for. Is it for his lip or is it for his tooth? Because they're both in the same angle. So to fix that, I'm going to purposely bring one out a little bit more. So you know for sure that this line is not the same as this line. Does that make sense?
Complete sense, yep. Brad said his drawing looks like a boot and an olive on the toe.
All right, well, hey, art is very subjective. It may look fantastic to me. We don't know. So here's another rectangle, and I'm just going to draw through a little bit so I can get that shape, and then I can clean this part up. So we have his other tooth up front. The other thing is with his tongue. With his tongue, I'm just going to, the same thing, I'm going to draw an oval. I'm just going to draw right through nice and lightly. And then I'm going to intersect it. I'm just going to cut it in half a little bit here so that we can put this center line. And then I'm going to clean up this part. So see how everything we're doing is starting with just basic shapes. An oval, put a little intersection line, and then clean up the part that I don't need to see. Having all those little shapes is real nice that way to break those things up. Then he's got these long ears. So the same thing with the ears. I don't need to draw the full ear first. I can just draw a center line for each. This way, it's a nice, quick way to get the curve that I want. I could look at the length to see if it's the length that I need. That's all I'm doing is just those sticks. When I have them where I want them and the curves look good to me, I'm just going to build up on each side the little bit of mass. And I want them to taper as it goes towards his head. So it's going to be thinner up here, and it's going to get a little wider as it gets towards the end. And it gives it's just a nice appealing shape when we have that taper going on. Same with this one. And so all I'm doing is I'm building some mass on both sides of that center line, that little stick that I made, which then I can come back here and clean up. Same thing with his neck. I can draw his neck as just a simple stick. And then once I like it, I will add some mass. But before we do that, we want to do his collar. His collar is basically, if we look at it, a cylinder. So when we draw a cylinder, we draw an oval and then another oval. And we can connect those two and we want to bend it in a little bit here in the middle because it just makes it look like a lot of fun when it has those curves. But you could see where I just did an oval and another oval, and I'm drawing these outer lines to connect the two. And the neck that I had, which was just a stick, I'm just going to add a little bit of mass on both sides of it.
I feel like his collar, for that character, his collar is like so important.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you could even do like these curves where we can bring one of these in this way. You could even bring another one here, and it just gives it a nice feel, this turtleneck that he has. And again, you can draw right through it. So we're not guessing where this line connects to this one. I'll just draw right through. These up later. Something that's also important with Goofy, he's got these little whisker kind of dots here. He's got a couple of short little whiskers up there, as well as he's got these little kind of straggly hairs. And these are just really nice curved kind of C shapes. If you think of them as just great big C's kind of stretched out a little bit. And let's see, I think we're getting pretty close. Once you have all your basic shapes down, then you could start to go in and shade in some of these areas. I just kind of hold my pencil on its side.
Hello, Kelly.
Something you want to do with Goofy is you want to put this little white oval kind of here and shade around it. By leaving that nice little white part there, it creates a nice highlight. And that's going to make it appear shiny. We know it's not really shiny, but it's just an illusion by adding that little highlight right there. And you'll see that often with eyeballs as well. When you see people coloring in the eyes, they might leave a little white circle there in the eye, and that's going to create a little highlight as well. Classic Goofy doesn't really have that white highlight, but you can do it if you like. It makes the eyes appear kind of moist and alive, but he doesn't. It's totally optional if you want to add that highlight or not. And then we can shade in the inside of his mouth. And then I think his neck here would be darker color as with the rest of his body. The rest of his head here. And again, I'm just kind of on its side, but you can color it in black with a marker or a crayon or whatever you have to get that tone. And then the same thing with his ears. Sometimes if I'm drawing this, I might ink this drawing in afterwards and just color all this in with some nice black ink. Or we can leave it graphite, which kind of gives it a nice feel as well.
So I've seen you ink them before, and it looks like when you ink them, you use a lot of watercolor. Is that a fact, or?
Yeah. The watercolor is great if I'm getting a lot of great big areas that I need that I don't want to just manually color in with a marker. Sometimes it's a lot faster with a brush to watercolor them in. It also gives it a nice feel. You can get a lot of nice tones with the watercolor. You can really get some nice gray areas and those kind of in between tones, and it just feels nice seeing that watercolor, especially on a classic character like this. So yeah, I think that's just about it.
Gosh.
There you go.
That's pretty awesome. All right. So guys, I'd love to. So this is in the notes. I put that you may have an opportunity to win Thomas's actual drawing while we're doing this. I didn't tell you what you was going to have to do to get it, but I will now. You have to email your picture, the one that you drew, to Morgan at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com. It's not a competition. We're not looking for the best drawing, but email your drawing to Morgan at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com, and you'll be entered into a drawing to win that picture that you see right there. So Morgan at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com. Go ahead and email. Just snap a picture with your phone, send it to Morgan, and everybody that sends in a picture will be entered into a drawing. One lucky winner will win that picture right there that Thomas just did for us. So,
yeah,
man, you made that look easy.
well, hopefully it was. With anyone that followed along, there's you find these little techniques to break things down, to find those center lines that under drawing, and it just starts to come together. Pretty soon, you find these lines just kind of just find themselves.
But I think a big part of it is too is that just like anything else, if you want to be good at it, you really got to do it every day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely is one of those things where the more you do it, the easier it starts to get. And I was fortunate enough to work at Disney Feature, where I was surrounded by some of the most amazing artists in the world. But it's something that anybody, with enough work, enough time and practice, and you can do this. That's the great thing today is you could find the information out there that'll teach you how to do something like this.
And you're not the first person to tell me that. We I guess it's been about a year, but we had one of Disney master artists, Kevin John, come on the podcast, and
oh yeah,
he does more theme park stuff and stuff that they sell in the park. He didn't actually work for Disney, but they commission a lot of theme park stuff. But man, he told us his story, and it's amazing because he had no professional training other than art school and art class in high school, and he's colorblind, and he's like,
oh wow,
he's got all these things going against hm. But he said, he's just like you just said, put in the work. If you put in the work,
yeah, and you can definitely do it. I mean, I literally, I didn't go to art school. I didn't go to college at all, for that matter. I grew up just drawing in high school, and I kind of just was teaching myself. I don't have any real formal training. Learning to draw and underdrawing and learning to draw with basic shapes was something that I discovered in a book at the library. It was a book called How to Draw the Marvel Way. And Stan Lee in this book showed you how to break down bodies into these shapes. And but I used to have to go and check that book out like every couple of weeks. I'd go and check it out and have it. And I never actually owned it. I just would go to the library every time and find it and study this book. And so it is incredible. Nowadays, you can probably find that book online or pages of it and anything. Those types of tutorials are out there, and so the information is definitely there. For anybody who wants to learn how to do something like this. Speaking of, I actually am doing online live drawing classes that I offer, that I do during the week. If anybody is interested learning to do this type of thing, you can learn directly from me if you'd like.
So how do they, just same way, just find you online and say, hey, I want to learn how to draw?
Yeah. Just send me a message, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, or you can email me at artofthomasestrada@gmail.com, and I can give you information on my online drawing courses that I'm doing, and where I literally just kind of break some of this stuff down and show you the fundamental drawing techniques.
You are that's awesome. And I tagged you every place we put the stream for tonight. I tagged you in it so they can reach out to you on Facebook there. You're obviously a very hard worker, but you're a lucky son of a gun, because you get to make a living at doing something you love, and not everyone can say that.
Oh man, I don't take it for granted for a moment. I mean, the first day I got hired back in '97 I just couldn't believe that I would actually get paid to do something that I consider a hobby. I'm so blessed and so grateful for that, and I've always kept that with me. Even sometimes you find yourself working on projects that may not be your favorite thing, or may not be the highest quality of a product or a show or a movie or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm still doing what I love, and getting paid for it, and so I could never complain about anything that I was working on. I was always just so grateful that somebody would that I would actually get to do this for a living. It was just unbelievable.
That's I mean, truly incredible. Sophie, one of our people watching, just commented she'd never seen her son, who's 12, be so motivated and inspired. And she's sending.
Oh, wow!
So, yeah, that's the kind of impact you get to make, man. So I'll make sure.
Man, that really means a lot. Thank you for sharing that. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that.
I'll make sure I'll make sure that we send you. I'll have Morgan send you. She just posted all of your contact information, but I'll make sure she sends you all the people that sent in their drawings and make sure.
That would be so great.
Huge shout out.
I'd love to see all that.
And Sophie, make sure you put your son's name on there, your 12-year-old son's name on there, because we'd love to give him a shout out.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Thomas, thank you, my friend. Look, me and you had talked about doing this a while back, and it's just.
Yeah, I'm happy we're finally able to.
I messaged you today out of the blue, and I'm sure you're like, golly, he remembered that. But
yeah, no, I was excited to do it.
So maybe we could do this again in the future. I truly appreciate it. I know everybody watching appreciates it. I mean, we have an amazing audience that shows up every Tuesday night. So I know.
That's so cool.
I know. Yeah. Our friend Joe just said his son Hunter, who's my little buddy, said, "Whoa, Dad, you drew Goofy," and then he said, "Where's Jimmy?" So because
nice.
So, yeah, man, we appreciate it, and I know everybody else does. So I'll be in touch soon, and we'll let you know who won the draw that mailed out to him, and. We'll have to do this again, maybe in a month or so.
Absolutely.
Maybe kind of a recurring segment.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I really had a lot of fun, and I appreciate the time. And I appreciate anybody just taking the time to hang out and see something I'm doing. I never take that for granted that people would actually take a time out of their day just to watch something that I would be doing. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I don't know if you can see the comments, but there's multiple comments coming in telling, just saying thanks, Thomas, and how much they appreciated it. So it's awesome, man. And they used to do this. This used to be a thing in Disney World at the animation pavilion in Hollywood Studios, where you could go sit and an animator would teach.
Oh, yeah.
But they did away with it, and a lot of people were really upset by it. So
bummer. Well, maybe we can bring a little bit of that back here.
I hope so, man. So thanks again. Have a good night, Thomas. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. All right. We'll talk to you real soon.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. I hope all of you enjoyed that. I know I did. It's pretty cool. So that'll be available once I end the stream tonight. That'll be available for replay, and I'm pretty sure we're going to grab all this and put it on the put it on our YouTube channel too. So cool. Make sure you get your email. If you did a drawing, make sure you email that to Morgan at the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com, so we can enter you into the drawing, and one of you will definitely receive that his drawing, his autographed drawing. And he's a former Disney feature animator. So it's really cool. I'm glad you liked it, Adi, Sarah, Heather. I think it's awesome. So hopefully we'll do this again. I was glad to bring it to you. Me and him talked. we did a whole interview with Thomas on the Disney Nerds podcast, and me and him has been back and forth in touch, and he's a super nice guy. We talked about this. Yes, we're back on Main Street for Halloween. Yes, please send Morgan the email so you can get entered into the drawing for a drawing. That keeps messing me up because we're entering you into a drawing for a drawing. We're entering you into a drawing for a sketch, for Thomas Estrada's sketch. Autograph sent to you, hand-drawn pencil sketch. Mike recently bought a painting from Thomas. That's awesome. Morgan just threw a link in the comments to the episode we did with the episode where we interviewed Thomas on the podcast. I am going to cut you guys loose. I appreciate everybody joining tonight. Make sure to listen to the podcast, the Disney Nerds podcast, on iTunes, Google Play Music, the Stitcher app, TuneIn Radio. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on any one of those that you would use. For Apple, a lot of people like the iTunes podcast app. You can find the Disney Nerds podcast there. Android users, Google Play Music, go to podcast. You can find the Disney Nerds podcast there. Then there's TuneIn Radio, the Stitcher app, Podbean app. Those are cross-platform. You can get it on just about anything. You can go to the DisneyNerdsPodcast.com and listen there. Make sure to rate and review the show. Thank you, Joe. Glad you joined. Follow the Disney Nerds podcast on Twitter at the Disney Nerds. Instagram at the Disney Nerds podcast. Make sure to like the Disney Nerds podcast on Facebook. Join the group Disney Nerds. Don't forget, if you get some little childrens and you go into Walt Disney World, rent a stroller from our friends over at Kingdom Strollers. I had a cousin last year. We went down with my cousin and her husband. They rented a stroller. Obviously, I sent them over to Kingdom Strollers. It was very, very nice stroller. You can tell it's high quality. I tell you what, I would tell you, go walk by Bell Services in the morning at any one of your hotels. If you walk by and you see the strollers there for pickup from the rental companies, I guarantee if you walk by there, the nicest strollers will have Kingdom Stroller stickers on them. Without a doubt. They're the highest quality. They're the cleanest. They look the best. They look like new. So I would check them out. All right. Kwaharini. Bonne nuit, les gens. Good night, people.